Hello and welcome to another tutorial by JFrog. The focus of this topic is high availability setup for Artifactory. For simplicity, the high availability setup is also called an HA setup. When one of the nodes in your network goes down for maintenance, upgrades, or because it fails, you and your customers may experience expensive downtime. Setting up a full-service HA redundancy network that can eliminate downtime for most performance drops. In this tutorial, we'll list the requirements for an Artifactory HA setup, explain the structure of the setup, and review how the HA setup operates when a node goes down. Before we get started with the requirements for an HA setup, let's clear up a common misunderstanding. Sometimes high availability is confused with replication options for sharing and backing up data among multiple data centers. But that is a different topic and is covered in another tutorial. High availability is about setting up a network that maintains continuous performance even when a component in the system is down. So let's talk about what you need for an HA setup. The first thing you need is the right license. Artifactory HA requires an enterprise license or higher. The data center for an HA setup must include nodes close enough that latency is never more than 1 millisecond. For example, if you have multiple data centers in the same city connected with fiber, you can create clusters across those data centers with less than a millisecond of latency. But a setup in multiple cities, or with a slower connection, cannot support high availability. You're also going to need a shared external database, and in some cases, shared binary storage. The setup will use these components in an active-active configuration with a load balance. Finally, you need to know that upgrades to your HA setup must follow a specific process. We'll explain that a little later in this tutorial. Beyond these high-level guidelines, recommendations for hardware and system support can be found in the JFrog online manual at wiki.jfrog.com. With the right license, hardware, and strong connections for your data center, you're ready to structure an HA setup for Artifactory. The HA setup is essentially 3 layers. The front end is equipped with a load balancer. The load balancer can be hardware, supplied by brands like Cisco, F5 Big IP, or an AWS Elastic Load Balancer, or ELB. Another option is a software-based load balancer such as solutions offered by Nginx, Apache, or HA Proxy. You might also have a combination of both hardware and software for your load balancer. With a combination, you can set up basic rules on the hardware load balancer and apply more complex proxies to the software tier. On the back end of the setup, you have the storage solution and the Artifactory database layer. The data storage can be native cloud storage, an object store, SB compliant, a network file share, or even a distributed, sharded, or local file system. The more you mix and match various storage options, the more complex the system becomes. In a highly available service, all supportive layers must also be highly available. The database, the storage, and the networking load balancer tiers must all meet requirements for performance in an HA setup. If the binary store is not highly available, Artifactory offers file sharding, which is an alternate redundant mechanism where multiple mount points are each written to in parallel. Artifactory also offers a cluster file system, which uses local disk space instead of shared storage. Shared storage is preferred because it reduces traffic across nodes. But Cluster FS is a great option if shared storage is not available. The standard HA setup assumes a system with a network file share, but the setup is similar if you use the native cloud storage. The middle layer in an HA setup includes the Artifactory nodes. They are completely stateless so that you can maintain performance between the load balancer and the shared binary storage layer. Within each cluster, one Artifactory node is identified as the primary node, and all other nodes are secondary. The structure of the home directory for the Artifactory cluster nodes is important and must be configured separately for each one of your HA setup. The details for HA directory configuration can be found in the online manual for HA installation. Understanding the HA structure gives us a platform for explaining HA operation, especially when a node in the structure goes down or when an upgrade is needed. In the HA setup, the primary node and all secondary nodes are active and fully functional. The system configuration dictates which node is primary. The primary node handles all scheduled tasks in the Artifactory cluster. Tasks include cron-based repository replication and internal maintenance tasks such as garbage collection. Secondary nodes in the cluster function continuously, even when the primary node is down. When an upgrade is needed, you need to follow a specific process that requires the primary node to be updated first. This is required so that the database is updated and all compatible layers are maintained. Once completed, the update is then rolled through all secondary nodes. Through each step of the process, allocations are made for enough nodes to handle the load while one cluster member is upgrading. In general, when Artifactory is in a mixed state across different versions, as long as the versions are compatible, users will not experience any downtime during the upgrade process. During the upgrade rollout, you cannot perform any admin functions, such as changing permissions or creating new repositories, until all the secondary nodes are updated to the same version as the primary. Avoiding such functions prevents the use of any features in one version not yet available in the other. It also prevents any mismatch with any database schema changes that occur with the upgrade. When you need to add nodes to the cluster, Artifactory 5 and higher offers license management that automatically allocates licenses to new nodes. You can add licenses using the UI or REST API. You can also add licenses directly to the primary node file system. These licenses are part of a pool that becomes available when new nodes are added. When issued, the license that expired at the latest date is offered first. When a node is shut down, the license is automatically returned to the pool for use with other added nodes. In a nutshell, an HA setup offers a service that is always up even when a node in the system goes down. In this tutorial, we discuss the requirements for an HA setup, the HA structure, and some basics for HA operation. Of course, the work and details that go into an HA setup are more involved than what we can offer in an online tutorial. But understanding the basics will provide you some direction and get you started. You can find more details in our online manual, in our wiki, or in any of our online resources full of up-to-date information to help you get up and running as well as streamline your operations. Thanks for learning with JFrog.